Welcome to another episode of Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. Of course, I'm your host, JJ Kitchen, and it was another great weekend of college football. I think what we started to see more in college football of the parity around each of these leagues. Now, obviously, Pitt took care of business, did a great job of beating Central Michigan, but there were some issues that you saw during the game. We'll go over that stuff here tonight. We'll also be bringing on some guests from other podcasts and other Pitt podcasters that will probably be coming on later in the show. So we'll be having some guest speakers in here to talk about the Central Michigan Chippewa game, Pitt beating up on Central Michigan, but also West Virginia loses to Ohio out of the MAC conference. Certainly not a good game. Obviously, it was not a good day on social media yesterday. We'll talk about that, and then also talk about the Backyard Brawl. It's officially Sunday night here, 8:06. It's Backyard Brawl week, and it's right now it's going to be a crazy game, I think. And regardless, throw out the records, throw out the games. I think that this is going to be a great game. I think it's going to be very competitive, but it could get lopsided on one way or the other, depending upon how these teams look at it. But first up, as you guys always know, the show is sponsored by Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. Bill and Alan, tremendous people. Great customer service. They have a wealth of knowledge, but they have plenty of different selections in Colonial Beer. But also, you can help out a small business. That's always great. But Bill and Alan are two diehard Pitt individuals, Alliance 412 members, athletic director fund contributors, two great individuals who love Pitt sports. And of course, they're season ticket holders for the Pitt Panthers in football. So obviously, anytime you can go to Colonial Beer, how about a small business, but a Pitt business? It's always a good thing. When you're in there, Bill or Alan, they're easy to talk to. They love talking Pitt sports. Make sure you grab them before you go in there. And obviously, they have a number of different selections through there. So make sure you go in there and get what you need before game day. And whether you're having your watch parties at your house or somewhere else, go ahead and stop at Colonial Beer, located at 4986 Library Road in Bethel Park, PA, 15102. The show is also sponsored by Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson, an attorney on your side. Call them today at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. Brian truly is one of the best, an easy person to talk to. Again, a lot of you got to meet him at the spring game. You get to see him, obviously, at the games at Acrisure Stadium, another season ticket holder. But the great thing about Brian is unlike a lot of the larger law firms, Brian treats you as an individual and cares about your direct results. He guides you through the process from beginning to end, and any questions that you have, he answers them. If he doesn't have the answer, he makes sure he puts you in front of people who do have those answers. Make sure, again, you call Thompson Law Group with Brian Thompson, an attorney on your side. Call them at 724-799-8404 or visit them at thompsonattorney.com. Last but not least, the K Collection Coffee brand by Austin Kitchen. My personal favorite, the AK Espresso, certainly does it perfectly, especially in the morning before I go to my office. The K Collection, a number of different brands on there. Go to www.thekingscraft.com and get yours today. Obviously, if this can promote and help Austin, a professional athlete in the Seattle Mariners organization, it can certainly help out you and me when we go to our offices and go to our work days and get our days going. The K Collection, the coffee brand by Austin Kitchen. Go to www.thekingscraft.com. The comments are already starting to pour in here. Again, like last weekend, if you have a super chat, if you've not done so, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel down below. Hit the like button. On top of that, if you have a question tonight that you want to get up on the screen immediately, you can always make a super chat to the channel. And we'll do it a lot like last weekend, bring it up on the screen, and we'll get more and more people here in the chat. Again, if you've not done so, it helps with the algorithm. YouTube checks this kind of stuff to where it helps promote the channel. Make sure you hit the like button down below. It's free, the like button, but also, too, subscribe to the channel. WRW Pitt in here, as always, smash the like button, subscribe, and join Alliance 412. This was a great game to get playing time for Sean Lee. The backup DBs weren't too bad. We'll go through a number of different things that I saw in the game that I liked, and he was one of those guys that really I liked in this ball game. I thought the defensive line, especially in the first half, I mean, overall, what was it? I think they had -5 or 5 rushing yards. Central Michigan, certainly a game where Pitt really, I think, dominated for the majority of the game, especially the first half. Third quarter, I'd say roughly about 5 or 6 minutes, you kind of had to say, okay, what the heck's going on here? They're down by 7, but Pitt just took right off after that and just was able to coast to a 45-17 win. We'll go over a number of things that I thought were a little bit crazy in there and hard to watch. But D-line, Isaiah O'Neal, I thought did well. Francis Brayu, I thought did well. The breakout player of the game today that I really looked at from yesterday was Zachary Crothers. I mean, at defensive end, I mean, the kid absolutely played lights out. If we look at the stats here, defensively, I think he had, let's see here, Zachary Crothers had 7 total tackles. Three of those tackles for individually, and then 1.5 sacks in the ball game. I mean, he did a really just good job yesterday. It was good to see him really get after it in this game, because we want to look to see more and more players to say, hey, who's going to step up, and can we really create more depth than what we currently have? Now, obviously, the first game of the year, we faced Duquesne. The second one, we faced Central Michigan. Really, when you look at those two, as I told you guys during the year, I'm really not judging Pitt very hard and saying, okay, this is, Pitt's looking great this year. Pitt's doing well in this area, bad in this area, because they're facing those type of competition. Now, the Backyard Brawl week is here. It's a Power 4 opponent. No matter, doesn't matter that West Virginia lost to Ohio. I mean, if we've learned anything about the Backyard Brawl, it's a game of epic proportions, and you can throw the record books out the window. Now, I think, unlike comparable to other years, this is probably in the past 4 years, this is the worst West Virginia team that we'll probably face. I think Neil Brown's teams were a lot more competitive because they had a lot more continuity. That certainly helped out a lot. But we'll continue to monitor it and really go through it. And then we'll also do a pregame show later on this year as well. Later on this week as well. And then we'll go with a prediction as well. On top of that, I'll be over at Kuz's Corner on Tuesday, I believe. We'll be filming on Tuesday, probably release Wednesday. Justin Kuz Walker, I think, is by far the best person when it comes to anything related to West Virginia football. That's why I truly like going on to his show when we do the Backyard Brawl every year. Just very knowledgeable, has a lot of great contacts, but information about West Virginia, he's truly one of the best. Let's see here. A couple other comments before we start getting into it here. CMU receivers made some great catches. Yeah, the one kid, made like a one-handed catch. The ball was thrown directly behind him, and he made one hell of a football catch. I mean, there were some good athletes on that football team, but luckily Pitt did what it was supposed to do and took care of business. It will be a huge blow to them if they don't have Jaheim White. I'm expecting a win, but still might be hard fought. Adam, I agree. I still think that when I go through the predictions, I'll watch more tape later on this week to really judge. But I really have this as a game winner for Pitt, because I think that the one they're not going to have Jaheim White. I mean, I went back and watched the tape already, but I want to do more note-taking during those first 2 games for West Virginia, and then also look at a little bit of Jacksonville State. I've watched a little bit of Jacksonville State, and I've also watched, people might think I'm crazy, but I've also watched a lot of tape of Michigan versus Michigan State from 2008 to 2010 when Rich Rodriguez battled Pat Narduzzi when he was a defensive coordinator at Michigan State, to try to see some stuff line up. And you'll be really shocked. From 2008 to now, the offense is kind of fine-tuned, but there's a lot of the same stuff that they run. I mean, it's a lot of the same when it comes to running this offense. I'm going to bring in a good friend of mine here, and let me tell you something. This guy is extremely knowledgeable. I'm going to bring him on stage, and then you guys need to go over and make sure you subscribe to his podcast. Him and GB are truly the best at the Berg Cave, and they do a great work talking about the Steelers. If you guys were all watching the Steelers today, got a win against the New York Jets, but also talks Pitt football, and he does a tremendous job. And I'm bringing Eric on stage. How are you, brother?
Doing well, sir. How are you, man? I'm blessed that you have me on the show.
Oh, brother, anytime. You always do great work. And between you, Harry, Carlo, GB, I mean, hey, brother, we're lucky to have some great people, and extremely pumped that you were able to have, through your busy schedule, be able to jump on here. And the Sunday conversation has gotten to be a lot more fun over the years as it continues to grow. So
Absolutely. Happy to be here, brother.
So, all right, before we get into it, I was telling everybody, we'll go through especially just the good, the pros and cons of talking about, the Pitt versus Central Michigan. Obviously, Pitt takes care of the Chippewas 45-17. I think there was a lot more good than bad, but we'll go through the goods and bads of it, and then we'll talk about West Virginia, the Backyard Brawl. They lose to Ohio yesterday, which is crazy to watch. I was able to catch the end of the game, but we'll talk about that. But first up, Brian BC Thompson, the first super chat of the night. Will Pitt be at full strength in the secondary this week? Many say that there's not too much separation in that depth chart, but need everyone for the brawl. I think we will have everybody that's going to be there. I think Rashad Battle wasn't in the game for the majority of the time. I think when you look at the defensive backs, I think it's one of our safest positions. I think you got Rashad Battle, Taman Lynham. Then you got Sean Lee, who's playing at a high level right now. Shadarian Harrison continues to play at a high level right now. Eric, what are your thoughts when you watch the Pitt defense through really 2 games, which is a very minuscule number of how many plays you're watching this football team, but when you watch Pitt through the first 2 games and you look at the defensive backs, what are your thoughts?
The first thing that jumps off to me is how well they tackle. Whether it's in run support or tackling after the catch. And even the balls that were completed on Pitt, they were contested catches. I know Central Michigan had a couple, in the 3rd down, 4th down conversions, and they were able to complete them. But the Pitt guys were right there. So, as the season progresses, those are going to be 50-50 where Pitt's going to break some of those up, come up with some picks. But early on, I like the play of their secondary and especially the way they're tackling.
I think it's very good. And you had a great point, too, because I watch a lot of these other college football teams right now and the amount of conversation around tackling and the PFF grades and how bad tackling has been. The one thing that I've always talked about, during camp with Pitt under Pat Narduzzi, it's extremely physical practices. I mean, that during camp, I know there's players that have actually left the program because it was so physical. And hey, that's probably maybe not a bad thing, because if they can't do the physicalness of practice during the week, how can you get ready for a football game? But I think that really Pitt has done a great job, to your point, which is a great evaluation. They've done a great job in tackling. And I think that's just people may think, well, that's basic. Well, in the game of football right now, we're having some very issues and a lot of basic stuff, especially when it comes to tackling at the college level right now.
Yeah.
But Brian, thank you so much. That's a great question. Another super chat from Will. How much do you think the offense will be holding back the last? How much do you think the offense has been holding back the last 2 weeks, and how much do you think they open things up against West Virginia? Well, this is a great question, Will, because they certainly were holding back against Duquesne. When I really watching that offense, I said about they really used 20 to 30%. I think against Central Michigan, they went up to about 65%. That other 35%, you're going to see it this coming Saturday, because there's no more holding back. It's a Power 4 opponent. Pat Narduzzi talked about this week where, they got to face a little bit of adversity this week. Central Michigan in the second half and the third quarter was able to cut the lead to 7 before it really got out of hand. I think that there's no more. I mean, this is it, and I think that you saw a lot of screen passes. You saw a lot of, bubble passes where, Raphael Poppy Williams got open, a couple deep shots to Raphael Poppy Williams. But if you look around what you saw, you really didn't see Blue Hicks get involved in this game a lot. I mean, that's very rare for a player that's been playing as high level as he has. We're going to see this offense, I think, perform at a much higher level. Eric, when you look at this team, I think they certainly held back a good portion of it. I think we've really seen about 65% of, 65 to 70% of the offense went through the first 2 weeks, in your opinion. Have you really seen enough, or what is your opinion so far on the offense of what you've liked, and do you think there's still plenty more to see?
Oh, there's definitely plenty more to see. Going back, conversations with you and Harry about what Cade Bell likes to do, and just what I've seen over the last couple of years, especially last year. There's no doubt that they're holding back. But one thing I did like to see against Central Michigan, they used basically 11 personnel and multiple facets of that around. So you had I'm sure everybody knows 11 personnel, 1 back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers, right? I love the way they moved the tight end, from going from a 2-by-2 formation to a 3-by-1 with 3 wide receivers. And then when they go to a 5 wide, they take the back out. Goff was out there. Reed, we know, can play in the slot or even out wide. So you can see they're building something. They're setting a foundation for a multiple look to kind of give West Virginia something to think about, I believe. And they really didn't deviate from that personnel grouping much, but you could see they did a lot within that group. That tells me that there are other personnel groupings that they're going to bring out against West Virginia, but they're making them think real long and hard about this 11 personnel, and I liked what they did, especially with the tight ends around the goal line.
And you brought up some very good points there. And again, with your knowledge and obviously playing the college level, playing at a high level, running multiple sets. I think that was a number of things that just the first thing that just really caught my mind when you said that, and just hit my mind, where we did get to see a lot of sets. I think it just goes into more depth of what we'll see down the road, especially when they drop out to where it's just 5 wide, or they're going into trip sets. They go back to their fundamentals where they're 11 personnel. I think we're going to start to see a lot more of that. But you can totally tell when there's an opportunity to take a shot down the field, it's almost like they're holding back to where they don't want to be able to show something. But, do I think it makes that big of a difference? Not at all. I think, I understand why coaches do it. We've seen it in the National Football League. I got to watch the Pat McAfee show and listening to Bruce Arians, who is, a quarterback. Everybody knows him as a quarterback whisperer, a guy who's worked with numerous quarterbacks, Hall of Famers. I mean, he was a superstitious guy in the first couple of games, especially in the preseason and whatnot. He wouldn't show certain things until that first game. They were still working through what they wanted to show, even the National Football League. So, I mean, it's certainly able to, you watch it from the onset to say, okay, they've got more things up their sleeve, but they're holding it for certain games. Guys, in my opinion, it's definitely going to happen this game. I mean, everything that Pitt has is going to happen.
Yeah, and one more thing about that, too, where I think they are building upon that. I looked some of these stats up because these are kind of things that I'm curious about. 7 players so far have at least 4 receptions. 16 players on this team have a reception. So they're getting guys involved. You know what I mean? They're testing the waters with some of these players, if you will. And it's giving whenever Pitt comes out, no matter who's in the personnel groupings, the West Virginia's got to think that they're not afraid to give that guy the ball. And I like the way that they're progressing. And that's what it is now. You play those smaller schools, you're building a foundation, you get to the Power 4. I think, the training wheels are off, if you will. And it's open up the full playbook.
I agree. That's great research on your end because I did not know that. I knew that they were spreading the ball around, but especially with 4 receptions, that many guys with 4 receptions and then that many guys with 1 reception. We talked about this during the summertime, that Desmond Reed cannot be the only guy that gets the football. That has to be the number one thing. There has to be more wealth. And I think that what we saw this weekend was the usage of the tight end position. I mean, that was something that we really didn't get to see. Gavin Bartholomew, an NFL tight end, we really didn't get him too much involved. You saw Holmes get a catch. You saw Altzman, who's a walk-on, get a catch. We saw Max Hunt get a catch. I mean, there was just an explosion at the tight end position, which is really good. So, I mean, we're starting to see more and more. But, Will, to your question here, you're going to see everything this weekend because if something's held back now, that's just idiotic coaching. That should not happen. I mean, I can assure you, in this type of a game, I think we've learned from anything from Pat Narduzzi. He's not going to hold anything back against West Virginia. But we get to more of these questions here. I know there's plenty of them coming in. I know we'll see more super chats down the road here. Number one, what were the good things that we saw? The good things that we saw in this game that I saw personally, one, I loved, we talked about earlier just on right now, the distribution of the football. I thought they did a great job distributing the football. We saw Raphael Poppy Williams really explode in this game. We didn't see him too much in the first game. They used him as an option in this game to where he was able to get open down the football field and bubble screens, being able to get the ball behind the line of scrimmage. You love to see that kind of stuff. I also loved, again, in the end of the first half, I mean, they had it was either -5 or 5 yards rushing. And this is a team that rushed for over 300 yards last week. Yeah. So, you get to the point of, okay, they did a great job up front for the first half. And I think even all the fourth quarter, they did a great job too. The third quarter, we had a little bit of issues in there, and we'll talk about that. But, I mean, the passing game looked efficient. You saw the distribution of the football, which was huge. You saw multiple different receivers get involved. I thought the passing attack at this point has been very multiple. You've talked about that, Eric, and just being multiple in different sets, and there were just a lot more plays that they could easily just branch off of for later games down the road. But the passing game looked good. I thought Eli Holstein, besides the one bad throw, he had an interception. The guy was open. If he just would have lobbed it, it would have been there. I think he tried throwing a dart, ends up being a turnover. But besides that, though, I mean, in the win, we look at the numbers here, pulling up the box score. Eli Holstein, man, was 21 of 28, 75% completion percentage. Absolutely incredible. 304 yards passing. That's a 10.9 average. Again, the second straight game, he's got 4 touchdown passes, only 1 interception. So he's got 8 touchdown passes on the year, 2 interceptions on the year. And then the QBR in this game, 89.9, which was phenomenal. I thought Mason Heinchel, who got to have 1 series in this game, was 3 of 4, very efficient, 36 yards and a 9.0 average. No tutties or an interception, but he led a touchdown drive. I mean, he pretty much, I think the one pass was pretty much like a no-look pass. I can't remember the receiver it was to. I got it in my notes. I'll have to look it up. But overall, I mean, I thought Mason Heinchel did really well. So, I mean, the passing attack just looked really good. And to your point again, Eric, sometimes I miss this kind of stuff, and that's why I'm glad you saw it. the different guys that just got the football. Raphael Poppy Williams Jr., 6 catches. Desmond Reed, 5 catches. Josh Altman, walk-on tight end, 3 catches. Deuce Spann, 2 catches. Justin Holmes, 2 catches. Blue Hicks, 1 catch. Zion Fowler L, 2 catches. Kenny Johnson, Joel Goff, and Jakirian Turner, 4 running backs at least had a catch. To your point, it's been a wealth of distribution, which you love to see, which is a completely different mold than last year. Eric, when you watched this game yesterday in a 45-17 victory, what were some of the other good things that you saw?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that happens when you have that many people that can ably contribute, you can keep the rhythm and the speed of the offense up that Cade Bell likes to run with. And if you remember when you were on when we did the preview on the Bird Cave, we were talking about what we want to see out of Cade Bell's system, right? And one of the things that I wanted to see was that controlled passing game, meaning those balls were going anywhere from the line of scrimmage to about 8 or 9, maybe 10 yards, air yards. They were like those medium passes. They were hitting them. They're hitting them consistently. What happens and then when Eli, I think at one point when it was 24-17, and Eli was kind of rolling out on the pocket, and it's when he hit Poppy for the big touchdown. Why? Yeah. Because if you look at the back end, Poppy was kind of coming in. Then he broke his route off because the efficiency of those medium passing medium passing game, allowed them to kind of play that, and the big play was there. Eli's completing 71% of his passes for the year. That shows the efficiency. Yeah, he's had a couple misses here and there, but that's going to happen. Overall, He's playing very, very well. I think it's a natural progression. He's showing he's comfortable in the system. And again, because there's so many people contributing, they can sub in and out and keep the momentum going because everybody's able to contribute and they know what they're doing on the field.
And to your point, again, it's that growth that you see every week. And I think that you see less of the mistakes. We saw at the beginning of the Duquesne game, Eli Holstein talked about the first quarter, hey, I haven't played a live football game since October of last year, and I just had to knock off the rust and had to really adjust my body and get back to used to getting hit, just getting it out of the way. And you saw that progression in quarters 2, 3, and 4 of the Duquesne game. This game, besides, a couple passes, I don't mind a guy being aggressive. I think I want a guy to be aggressive at the quarterback position that wants to throw the ball down the football field, use his legs whenever he needs to. I think that's great quarterback play. And I think, again, to your point, he's just progressing as the games go on. And I think it's going to continue to go that way from the long stretch that we've seen. Now, when it goes into the things that need to be corrected, there's a number of things that need to be corrected. And I just immediately, off the top of my mind, and I know people are going to be not going to want to hear this from sometimes or just from some people, but the offensive line play, I think, for the first quarter really just kind of bothered me because you saw the first play of the game. There's immediate pressure on Eli Holstein. You look at some of the offensive linemen just did not have a good day. When you see an offensive lineman on the ground and missing blocks, it's never really a good thing. But it also kind of folded over into the run game. The run game, for the majority of the time, I think whenever you look at it here, we had 124 yards rushing. Desmond Reed had 10 carries for 46 yards. Eli Holstein had 4 carries for 36 yards. Jakirian Boozy Turner, the true freshman, made his debut. I expect him to have more carries and more touches as the years go on and as the game goes on. Jakirian Boozy Turner, 6 carries for 26 yards, 4.3 average, 1 touchdown. And Joel Goff, 6 carries, 16 yards, and 1 touchdown. The run game in this offense seems to be almost like the second fiddle to the pass game. It's very clear that Cade Bell certainly wants to throw the football. It's almost as if the pass game is really number one. If they can't get the run game going, they're just going to throw a bubble screen or something behind the line of scrimmage to get 2 or 3 yards. It's almost like even though it's a pass on statistically, they almost count it as a run. Yep. But you want to see more of in between the tackles where they're gaining yards and more consistency of it because we saw later on in the game where they were averaging 3 to 4 yards a carry. The one guy who continues to play at a high level, and I think just the Pitt ironwork certainly worked for him, was Joel Goff. This guy, anytime he gets hit, he's falling forward. He's not afraid to go through guys. I love how hard he runs. I think he continues to get better every game, and we need to find those guys behind Desmond Reed so Desmond Reed's not getting 30 carries a game and trying to catch 10 passes out of the backfield. So I think over time, during that game, you saw the offensive line really improve. I think that you look at the O-line when it comes to pass protection, maybe I think kind of counted through the tape 3 or 4 areas where Eli Holstein had a lot of pressure on him. But besides that, the offensive line, I thought, protected pretty well. And during that time, when they protect pretty well, Eli Holston gets the ball out and delivers a good pass. He's able to do that. So, Eric, when you watched the game, name a couple things that you saw and said, I kind of want to see this improved a little bit.
Yeah, it's the run game. It's the run blocking, guards pulling, things like that. They're just it's not like any Pitt fan should panic about it. These things are correctable. These are definitely things are correctable. And even then, when Goff hits the hole a few times, I think his brain's running faster than his feet because he loses his feet a few times. He's going to be able to get that going. I like him as your short yardage goal line back. The tackles for the most part are playing pretty well. There's a couple snafus there and there. So it's that interior line that has to get on the same page with the power game. The one thing, it's the way college football is nowadays in any football. I mean, you are going to limit your run game out of the shotgun a little bit, right? Yeah. So you have to be even more disciplined and more better, lack of better terms, on your blocking assignments and also the execution of that. And that's something that they're struggling at right now. I'm hoping that it'll get better, but it's definitely an area of improvement. And then I like to see maybe even the third back get some more carries. When you were talking about
Boozy, Boozy Turner
in there, but 100% sold on Goff being almost a 1-2 punch because you're right. Reed's going to have more catches, and especially when the run game does sputter, those quick screens, those bubble screens, that's an extension of the run game. He's going to be relied upon that. So you want to limit his carries in between the tackles, but we'll see. Run game definitely needs improvement, but I don't think it's time to panic.
I agree, not time to panic, but I agree with you. It needs to get better. We certainly don't have any power running sets, which personally, I think just from any type of offense you watch, you'd love to see a power running set, something that you go in between the tackles and make sure just get those hard 3 or 4 yards in between. But we'll see if Cade Bell does that. I mean, I don't expect us ever to be under center. It's just not part of his offense, and he's not comfortable with it. He's not going to do it. The other thing that concerned me a little bit yesterday, which again, in that time period where Central Michigan started to kind of close the gap a little bit, and we'll go over the box score of everything overall because I think the box score, just shows that Pitt dominated the game from beginning to end. But when you looked at the defense, they had 5 conversions on 4th down, and it was all in that third quarter. Yep. I look at that and it was frustrating to watch because whether it was a 4th and 2, a 4th and 1, a 4th and 3, they were finding areas to get involved in. Now, again, this is something correctable because for what they run, a quarter style defense, when you're able to pressure and you have more guys in the box and they're projecting that they're going to be able to run the football, there's more guys that are wide open. It's more one-on-one. They're giving inside leverage, whether it's on a slant or something else like that, especially from the cornerback position. Yep. But that was one thing that really bothered me. You don't want to have happen go down the road because in a close football game, if it's 4th down, that coach in their mind, the opposing coach should say, okay, we're punting. We're not even taking a shot of going for it on 4th down. But when you have that issue on 4th down in the third quarter, it starts to create a little mishap. We had a 4th down in the 4th quarter. Pitt was able to get the turnover on downs, but that was one thing that kind of had me shaken up a little bit when you look at it. It's okay, hey, we've seen this from previous years from a Pat Narduzzi defense where, the 4th down stuff gets to be over the top. But in your point, when you look at the defense, what do you think was not as a concern, but more of something that needs to be improved upon on the defensive side of the football?
Yeah, when I looked at that third quarter and what you're speaking about those 4th down conversions, I credit that more towards Central Michigan than I do Pitt. And here's what I'm saying. Because they weren't fooled. And when I talk about the secondary, the Pitt players were there to make the play. So they weren't fooled. For that period of the game, Central Michigan just, they made the plays. And especially when they started spreading guys out and then still running their power scheme, that seemed to have a little bit of an effectiveness. So from an adjustment perspective, you're talking about the historical things with Narduzzi's teams. Maybe that's still a cause of concern. Are they ready yet? In other words, can they go from playing a Central Michigan as bad as West Virginia it seemed to be this year? They have some speed that Central Michigan doesn't have. How can they adjust to that? Whether it's an in-game adjustment or a week-to-week adjustment. So Again, I love the way the D-line and linebackers, they pretty much dominated the game except for a stint in that third quarter.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of a schematic and an adjustment perspective of can they do that? Can they make an adjustment for next week? I don't have very many concerns about the defense so far through the first 2 weeks, though. Again, an asterisk considering the level of competition.
I agree. The level of competition you can always throw out there and say, hey, it's who they faced, so you can look at it. But through the first 2 games, I agree to your point. The defense has just played lights out. And we look at the team stats. We look at the team stats here. First downs, Central Michigan had 13 first downs in the game. Pitt had 22. Third down efficiency, Central Michigan was only 6 of 17. We were 6 of 9, so we were not in the third down category very often.
Yep.
On fourth down efficiency, Central Michigan was 3 of 5. So they had 3 conversions out of the 5. So the other 2 were in the fourth quarter. Pitt was 0 for 1 on the fourth down conversions. When it comes to the passing attack, overall, Central Michigan only threw for 177 yards. Pitt threw for 340 yards.
Yeah.
Overall yardage in this game, Central Michigan only had 217 yards of total offense. Pitt had 464 yards of total offense, almost 500 yards of offense, which is pretty damn good. Rushing attack, Central Michigan had 40 yards rushing. That's it for a team that rushed for 350 yards last week. Yep. Pitt rushed for 124 yards. Rushing attempts, Central Michigan rushed the ball 41 times. We rushed it 26 times. Obviously, we dropped back 32 times. They dropped back 27 times because obviously they're losing. They're going to have to pass more. Central Michigan had 9 penalties for 75 yards, and we had 6 penalties for 63 yards. So 6 penalties, I think that's good. I mean, you want to get those penalties down a little bit, maybe to that 4 or 5 range. Fumbles lost. Central Michigan had 1 fumble in this game. They lost it. We had an interception thrown. In the time of possession, I thought Pat Narduzzi, and I wanted to talk to you about this, Eric, because we normally look at games and say, okay, time of possession will tell you who wins this football game and who doesn't. Mm-hmm. But in this Cade Bell offense, things go so fast. So sometimes we score in 30 seconds or 2 minutes. It can vary. Central Michigan had the ball for 36 minutes in this game. We had it for 23 minutes. They had the ball 13 minutes more than us, and we scored more than double the points that they did. And in this 45-17 victory, when you look at the team stats and you hear that possession, do you think, personally, me, I don't think it's that big of a deal with this type of offense, but in your opinion, is that time of possession thing that makes you nervous, or it's like, hey, we're scoring, so what does it matter?
Yeah, it's a concern as the competition goes up. So yeah, you're right, because again, I think the swinging point of the game is when they made it 24-17. Kenny Johnson gets that nice kickoff return. There was one little small swing pass or a run to Reed, and then he hit Poppy. Then that's almost like Central Michigan's going to look at this and go, we're doing this, we can't. It's what you do with the football. Yeah, you can go up and down the field between the 20s, but what you do with that time of possession. Are you either kicking field goals or are you turning over on downs, a turnover? Because, yeah, you can have 36 minutes of time of possession, but when you only put 17 points on the board, in that particular instance, it is a moot point, if you will. And I do think Pitt's probably not going to win the time of possession battle in most of their games because of the way that they play offense. Even then, if they were to, do the quote unquote 4-minute offense at the end of a game and, be able to take over the game with running the ball, I think time of possession with Pitt, I think is an overblown step. It's more or less what you do with that time of possession. If they're not scoring touchdowns, then the defense is opportunistic and they're playing situational ball very, very well.
I agree. And to get to some of these comments here, Will had a good point here. Crothers is going to be a stud, has the potential to be one of the best defensive ends in over a decade, and that's saying something. It's kind of funny to say that, Will, because Randy Bates also made that same comment to where he thinks he'll probably be one of the top 2 defensive ends. I think you can have him up there for a long period of time at Pitt, and also too Jaden Moore. When Jaden Moore gets healthy, he'll be back, and then he'll be really good, in my opinion, out of the Oregon. I think he's a damn good player.
Yeah, absolutely.
JP Marvelous, JJ loved the show. Should Narduzzi have called that last time out in the first half on 3rd and 4 with 27 seconds left? Pitt defensive players were clearly confused, led to a penalty and CMU TD. Well, if your players are confused, yeah, you better call a timeout. My biggest thing with Narduzzi is the 3rd and 15. The 3rd and 15 timeouts are just, I just don't understand it, because you have the offense trying to move forward. It's a long distance. You don't want to give them a lot of time to figure out a play or put something together. He calls timeouts. That kind of stuff just drives me nuts, because on 3rd and 15, I want those guys to stay out there and figure something out on the fly. And normally, I want to say 95% of the time, they're going into punt after they get 5 or 6 yards, maybe even 10 yards at most. But when you allow them, how many times have we seen during the Narduzzi year where it's 3rd and 15? The Clemson game was a perfect game last year. We call a timeout. It's 3rd and 15. They're on their 40-yard line, and they run a slant route right over the middle of the field. They catch it for 20 yards, and it's a first down directly after a timeout. Yep. In your opinion, Eric, do you think, in those 3rd and long situations, I mean, Pat Narduzzi loves to call timeouts there. But in your opinion, do you think it's right or wrong, indifferent? What's your opinion on that?
I don't think there's a set rule for that. And that's a great question, JP. And my answer to JP's question on that would be no. And here's why. They gave you no evidence that they could do anything on, if they required 4 or 5 yards and more previously in that first half. Now, hindsight 2020, I think it's a good point. Yeah, I mean, that led to a score. Yeah, we should have called timeout. Pitt should have been able to regroup, things like that. But there was no evidence that Central Michigan was able to do anything. To your point, just leave the players out there. The pursuit was fantastic all game. Just let them out there and let them play, because it's the offense that has to do something. The defense has really had the evidence there that they could stop it. On 3rd and 15, it really, like I said, it's the ebb and flow of the game. It really depends on the way. I think when you call a timeout in those situations, if you don't have the personnel or the package on the field that you want, if there's a DB that's really struggling, or there's something that comes out, or they substitute an offense, and then it causes you to think if you're in a big nickel or a dime or whatever you want to do, that's when you call timeout. If not, I think you pick your strongest defense based on that personnel grouping, and then you run it on 3rd and 14, 3rd and 15. Because like JJ, you're right. The more time you give them, the more time they can think of any type of alternatives to their tendencies that will be more effective, on those 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 15s.
I agree. And a question here from Wolf. Hey, JJ, can we talk about the on-the-run throw from Mason Heinschel yesterday? Navigated the pocket, kept his eyes down the field, and delivered an absolute laser downfield. That's the raw talent right there. Wolf HD, it just leads you, and obviously before we head into the conversation about WVU, Mason just looked the part yesterday, and you see him very comfortable in the pocket. I loved how, they put him out there just to get his feet wet. This is a kid, in my opinion, it's going to be the future quarterback for Pitt, and we've heard all about it during the spring, heard about it all during the fall. The kid can play, and I think that yesterday, even though it was only how many handful of plays, it was one drive, but still went 3 of 4. Really conducted the offense extremely well for a true freshman. I mean, I can't tell you guys how hard that is for a true freshman for any position to jump in there and be productive in college football when the game just speeds up mightily. Eric, in your point, when you watched this yesterday, obviously he was only in there for a drive, but to Wolf HD's question here, are you excited about Mason? Do you think it really fits the mold of what everyone's been talking about? And do you think really he can be that future guy at the quarterback position for Pitt?
Yes.
Pretty simple.
It's pretty simple. I was sitting with Harry at the spring game, and Max and others, his son. We're watching, and by far he was the best quarterback at spring.
Mm-hmm.
And Eli was, I think, coming off an injury and still going through some things too. But there was no doubt Heinschel was the best quarterback. The anticipatory throws, and you saw the poise. Again, it's practice, but then you saw the poise. I get it. It's a comfortable game that he went into, but he has the poise, and I just like what I see from him. And what you're saying is dead on about the true freshman. I always joked with somebody, I'm going to show you something here real quick, is the hardest thing I took my freshman year in college was football. Because anybody who's played high school ball, you have like 12 or 13 plays, right? Check this out. See?
Brother, yes, please hold that up. Now tell everybody what that is.
This is my playbook from college that you have to memorize from like a pamphlet in high school to all of this. And if the fact that he can master this and show that level of comfort, his future at Pitt is bright. And I think Pitt's going to be in good hands, because I think to run, and I've never played an offense like like Cade Bell's, but if you're going to go at that tempo and that fast, you have to have the master of the details. And all signs are pointing that he is going to be able to do that. And I can't wait. I'll love to watch Eli play as well, but I cannot wait to watch him play in the future.
And do me again a favor, because you're one of the only few people that actually understand this. Hold that playbook up again. Guys, look how thick this playbook is. Okay, it's not high school. This is college. Look at the college level. Just look at that. Brother, that's got to be at least 200, 300 pages. At least.
It is. I mean, you go down from here, and just to give you guys an idea, maybe we could do a little thing on this one day, but it goes down to, let's say you have 10 running plays in high school.
Yeah.
Then you have 10 running plays for 3rd and 5 or 2nd and 10 from your own goal line, for the red zone, for middle of the field. Then you have it versus this type of front, this type of defenses. And then there's just so much to absorb at the line of scrimmage. That's why I love to say dumb jocks, right? Yeah. And you got to make all these decisions and calls within like 3 seconds. And when I look at the quarterback, again, that's why these quarterbacks and this is going to be like a little bit of a tangent. That's why these quarterbacks should show these great athletic ability on tape. He's going to be great. He's going to be great. Okay. He very well might be, but can he play within structure, which means he can master playbooks like this. And when they do that, your offense can just operate so much more efficiently. And then the out of structure plays happen, which are the scrambling, like Eli rolling out, hitting Poppy. Those are out of structure plays. But because Eli is mastering the structure of the play and playing within that system, those short, medium passing game is becoming efficient with the 71% completion. Those down the field plays are going to be more and more prevalent this year. And Heichel should be able to do that whenever he takes the baton.
I couldn't agree more. And again, to your point, which is very good, just the ability, the repetitions they run with this offense to make it that much better for a guy like Eli, was now in his 2nd year in the offense, understanding what Cade Bell wants to do, why he's calling certain plays, that kind of stuff really does help. Now, switching over to the West Virginia stuff here, I think here I had a couple questions in here if I can find them. Let me see here. Yeah, Shadarian Harrison and Crothers, future stars on defense. I couldn't agree more with you. Matt Speck, a viewer of the show. JJ, rivalry games are always close. I get it. But Pitt's lineup is better than WVU at every position group. There should be no excuse to lose. I want to see a clean win and their Rich Rod Love Fest week 3. This is a great comment. And keeping this up on the screen, going into this, for the people that don't know, maybe they didn't watch the game or didn't know, or obviously not on social media. Yesterday was just a tough. I mean, at the end of the day, when you lose to a lower opponent, it's always embarrassing. And West Virginia fans did not handle it well yesterday. The West Virginia Mountaineers lost the game yesterday to the Ohio Bobcats at Ohio. I think Pitt has had their fair share of going to other places. If I'm not mistaken, back but 20 years ago, I think Pitt lost to Ohio at Ohio. Lost the game yesterday, 17-10 to the Ohio Bobcats. It was not a good day. Parker Navarro, the quarterback from Ohio, was able to throw the ball 22. He's 22 of 31, 247 yards, 1 touchdown pass, but he also had 3 interceptions. West Virginia did not score 1 touchdown off of any of those interceptions, which is not good. Nico Markiel certainly had his fair share of issues yesterday. Got a lot of heat from the fan base at West Virginia. Nico Markiel was 15 of 26, 178 yards, a 6.8 average. No touchdown passes, but 1 interception. Jalen Henderson came in at one point, did not look good either. I think he's got much better wheels. I think he can certainly run a lot better than Nico, but he was 0 for 2 and missed wide. I mean, there's one guy who was wide open down the field, and he just threw it like 15 yards past him. I mean, it was just not good. Jaheim White in this football game had 6 carries. He left the game with an injury. From anybody that we've talked to, we'll see during the week. Rich Rodriguez talked to the media on Monday. From everything that it looked like, again, we hope that young man gets 100% healthy because he's a great individual. Anybody I've talked to, he's a former teammate of Kenny Johnson's in high school. Really good football player and a really good individual. Went out the game, looked like a horse collar tackle, had to leave the game on a cart, was actually even on crutches. I don't know if he plays in this game. From what it looked like, it looks like he's not going to play in this football game. He had 6 carries for 40 yards. That's a 6.7 average and 1 touchdown. He was probably their best player on offense. Rodney Gallagher, for people who don't know, it's a Whitfield product. He had 2 carries for 18 yards. Nico Markio had 11 carries for 9 yards. Obviously, a lot of those taken back because of the sacks. Jalen Henderson, 3 carries for 4 yards. And just overall, just not a good day on the ground. 28 carries for 72 yards, which is not good overall. Jaden Bray in this game, he left the game with an injury. We're not sure what his availability is going to be. Monday is going to tell us a lot more about the injury situation. Jaden Bray had 4 receptions for 69 yards. Cam Vaughn, the Jacksonville State transfer, who came over with Richard Rodriguez, he was had receptions 2 for 43 yards. Preston Fox, back from last year, 1 reception for 20 yards. Clay Ash, 4 catches for 20 yards. Rodney Gallagher, only 1 catch for 12 yards, and it goes on and on and on. And it was a rough game yesterday. I mean, I turned the game on after the Pitt game, and it was not a good football game. I mean, and that's just not from the West Virginia side of point of things. Ohio didn't look good in very many stretches of that football game, whether it was tackling, trying to move the football, stopping. They were able to stop West Virginia and create those opportunities, but sometimes it was almost like West Virginia was really hindering themselves. You look at their offensive line play, they were horrible in getting pushed up front. I thought their run game was horrible. They weren't able to protect Nico Markio. If we look at the numbers here, I think that the Ohio defense, we look at the sacks, 1 sack, 2 sacks. Overall, 4 sacks in the game for Ohio. Let's see here. 4 sacks, and West Virginia only had 3 sacks in the game. So it was a tough game yesterday overall for the West Virginia Mountaineers, who we face this week. To your point, though, Matt, I'm going to be very critical of Pat Narduzzi if this is a loss. And the reason I say that, and I tried telling West Virginia fans this, and I will certainly have the conversation on Tuesday when I join Yakuza's Corner, the hype for this football team, where I saw a lot of podcasts online, and Eric, maybe you have seen this too, the amount of people that were like saying that West Virginia was going to win 8, 9, even potentially 10 games. I saw a writer say that they thought West Virginia was going to win 9 games. I mean, I was absolutely flabbergasted when you bring in over 74 new players to a whole entire team and a whole new coaching staff. It's completely different. And then you're adding in guys from the portal, which I tried telling people about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but when you're adding players in the portal in the fall, that's a problem. And you're losing players that are Power 4 guys for JUCO guys. So, Matt, to your point, I'm going to be very critical of Pat Narduzzi. I think it's a must-win for West Virginia, but now it's also a must-win for Pitt to keep their goals alive, but also that Pitt's a better football team. And if you lose this game, it's going to be over your head. I mean, this is the last game that really matters for West Virginia this year. They're going to give you everything, throw the records out. It's going to be this game and this game only. Eric, to Matt's point, do you think that there really is no excuse for Pat Narduzzi to lose this game? And do you think that this game is truly important? And even with this being a backyard brawl, they should win by more than 1 score.
It's very important. And I believe all the pressure is on Narduzzi and on Pitt.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
What Matt said is the roster is just that much better at Pitt than it is at West Virginia.
Yeah, I agree.
You cannot, and it sounds like Matt and everybody else knows this, and this goes for the college and NFL. I mean, you cannot just plug a guy in and expect him to know like this. This isn't Madden. This isn't video games where they don't have to get timing down, that kind of such. West Virginia is kind of dysfunctional right now. I saw highlights, but I'm going to trust what you were saying about watching the game. But what that makes West Virginia is very desperate.
Yeah.
It makes them play. I'm just going to phrase this up as play with not a care in the world. Because like you said, they could go 1-11 this year, and if that one is beating Pitt, well, actually be 2. They can 2-10.
Yeah,
that's going to make their year. It's not going to end Pitt's season if they lose to West Virginia, but it's going to leave the taste in the fan base's mouth. That's just going to sting for a whole calendar year, maybe even longer. So all the pressure is on Pitt. They got to go in there. They got to be disciplined. Obviously, the environment's going to be insane. The noise is going to be insane.
Mm-hmm.
They need to stay disciplined, because what West Virginia will do, this is just a guess, but I'm telling you what they're going to do. They're going to chirp, and they're going to want those 15-yard penalties. They're going to want, the extra shenanigan penalties on this that's going to put Pitt in non-advantageous field position. a 3rd and 20 because of stupid penalty now is going to turn into a first down. That's what they're going to be going after. That is a dangerous game to play when the rosters are so much better, or the roster is so much better on Pitt side. So I would be very careful. And to your point, that's all on Pat Narduzzi and the coaching staff to have these kids just be disciplined. If they're disciplined, they execute the game plan. This should be a comfortable win, whether it's by 10 points or by 50 points. It should be a comfortable game if they stay disciplined and execute what Narduzzi and the coaching staff puts in place.
I couldn't agree with you more, Eric. And to this extent, it's the 11th year for Pat Narduzzi. It's the first year back, for Rich Rod, in his second term with the West Virginia Mountaineers. Again, we have seen, obviously I didn't get to see personally, but Johnny Majors 2.0, that did not work out. I don't think the Rich Rodriguez era will ever grow into something where it's a national championship or winning the conference multiple years. I don't think that stuff will ever happen. I think they're going to go through their stretch of that 2.0 hire. And for Pat Narduzzi, again, to your point, it's not going to end Pitt season. It's a non-conference game. It doesn't help them or hurt them when it comes to playing a game and it's not conference. Now, it only hurts national perception, though, because national perception is going to say, well, this is a football team that got absolutely dominated at times by the Ohio Bobcats. How was Pitt not able to beat this team? And it hurts them to where eventually they go to 2-1 instead of 3-0. I think so. To your point, I agree. I think the pressure is certainly there's certainly pressure on both sides, but there's more pressure, a lot more pressure on Pat Narduzzi because the goal is to go where Pitt wants to go with an ACC title, clinch an ACC berth, clinch a college football playoff spot. There's a whole lot more conversation around that. A question here from a West Virginia fan. WVU's weakness is a retread on the downtrend of a head coach that no other Power 4 program wanted. Game has passed him by, but WVU fans think nostalgia wins football games. Terrible hire. Many WVU fans did not want this clown back. Our AD admitted football wasn't his wheelhouse, so he entrusted decisions to donors. Yeah, so obviously it's a very critical response there from a WVU fan. I don't think personally, I didn't think the Rich Rodriguez hire was good. I think the donors wanted him back. From people that I talked to, the first two choices, were really Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator at Penn State, and then Brian Hartline, the offensive coordinator and assistant offensive coordinator and wide receiver coach of Ohio State were the guys that he was looking at. JP Marflis definitely agree. Goff looks good. Need Turner to get in there. No rushes for Jalen Williams yet. Possibly more down the road. We'll see what he does there about that.
So I'd be curious with the West Virginia fans that were just saying that about Rich Rod. What do you guys think was the main reason they hired him? Is it one of those I don't think you ever hired coaches to sell tickets.
Yeah.
But was it more of a feel good because it was somebody that they were familiar with? They had a lot of success with him, Pat White, Slayton, all those guys. I'd be curious, if anybody before the end of the show leaves a comment on what is your opinion on why Rich Rod was rehired at West Virginia? Because it was puzzling for me as well.
Yeah, and I think it's a great question. If you are a West Virginia fan watching this, another one, or the same West Virginia fan watching this, give us your thoughts about why that hire occurred. Because to that guy's point, I mean, there were multiple stretches where Rich Rod didn't coach in a year. I mean, he took a year off because no one else wanted him, and it was a clear problem. When it didn't matter where he went, and then he goes to Ole Miss for a year. Matt Luke gets fired. He goes to University of Louisiana Lafayette. Ends up staying there for a couple of years, then takes a Jacksonville State job. But he was at that level for how many years down there, and then now bumping up to West Virginia. The nostalgia, I totally understand that because that's all we heard the entire offseason from WVU, outlets, podcasters. It didn't matter. There was just the nostalgia of it. Like, they're so happy he's back. But here we are, week 2 into the season, and the offense just looked a wreck. I mean, and to the point where even last night, even on my stream last night with Carlo and a bunch of people on X, I've heard the same exact thing that he was saying in terms of it's a lot of dysfunction right now, even during practices down at West Virginia. And he believes that West Virginia will turn it around with Rich Rod. I do not. I don't think he will turn it around. It's only going to get harder for West Virginia as the years go on. But there's just a lot of just miscommunication and dysfunction within that organization. But more importantly, football. It's almost like Rich Rod just running around, just yelling at people all day. And I talked about it during I talked about it on the space last night. He's sitting there in the media and personally, I wasn't a big fan of this, but he's sitting there during the media press conferences talking about how, West Virginia players have it really easy. They can put sprinkles on their ice cream. I'm like listening to this stuff, and I'm like, if Pat Narduzzi said this, we would be like, what are you talking about? What are we here to win football games? Is this what we're talking about? And I think that a lot of West Virginia people were like, oh man, he's just being honest, man. It's great to have a guy that's honest, back to the media and whatnot. I mean, he's getting cupcake questions, but at the same time, it was kind of like, okay, what's going on with this? And then you see now here in week 2, the offense is in complete disarray. The special teams was in complete disarray. The tackling for the defense was really, really bad. I think that, Ohio kept shooting itself in the foot because they were turning the ball over, but now there were also good plays by West Virginia, but they still gave up 17 points to Ohio. It's just a lot of things going on, but from a WVU fan's perspective, I would love to see and to hear their thoughts. Pitt fan 1993, a lot of talk on offense holding back, and I don't think defense is holding back, but I expect them to really dial up the pressure this week. WU kid can't pass the football, and they lost their running back. To the Pitt fan 1993, I would think this week, if I know a Pat Narduzzi and a Randy Bates defense, we're going to see some pressure this week. They're going to dial it up to where, you've seen a lot in the past couple of weeks, a 4-man, 5-man, sometimes a 6-man pressure. I guarantee you're going to start to see this week, potentially, especially when they want to run the football, 6-man and even potentially a 7-man box where they're running 7-man pressure. I mean, that's a Pat Narduzzi and Randy Bates fundamental. They love to blitz. They love to bring pressure. Now that comes with an advantageous, situation where you bring more guys, you got more vulnerability in the back. So if you're going to blitz guys, you better get to the quarterback. Nico Markhill certainly struggled with pressure, certainly struggled with accuracy. He did not look good in those 2 areas. But if you're going to blitz, you better be able to get to the quarterback, and that goes to the defensive line and everybody across the board. Eric, do you think they'll dial it up more this week and really just get multiple? We see the Delta packages. We see more than a 4-man pressure. We probably see 5, 6-man pressures. What is your opinion on what we could potentially see against West Virginia?
Especially depending on the formation that West Virginia's in. If they're not spreading it out 4 and 5 wide, you're probably not going to see as much. You may just see like a corner blitz or some type of a fire blitz up the middle. If they are only in 2 or 3 receivers or 12 personnel or something like that, I do believe you're going to see them dial up the pressure. And again, just pressure does not also mean guys. Pressure could just mean different stunts, where you show one guy, he drops, another guy comes on. So you don't need to, the word pressure does not mean you need to bring like 5 or more or 6 or more. Although, again, some packages may allow you to do that, depending on how they feel about the receivers and the tight ends as they threaten the passing game. Can you go straight up cover 0 or man-to-man and comfortable by bringing that pressure? But I know the quarterback can run a little bit too, so you got to be a little bit calculated there. But there's no doubt they're going to bring the house, because controlling the line of scrimmage is also on both sides of the ball is going to limit that crowd noise, control the game, and that's what you want to do on a team that has a lesser talented roster than you.
And you also brought up a great point right there that I thought Ohio nor did West Virginia do. There's got to be a spy on the quarterback. And to your point, they can certainly run the football. I think Nico Markhill, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he is certainly a very, a guy that can certainly run the football. Jalen Henderson's a guy that can certainly run the football and I think he's more pro runner than he is a thrower. But I think that both of those guys, you got to be able to make sure you have your eyes on them, because they can run the football and have a quarterback draw at any point in time during the game. So I think there are a lot of those opportunities we could see potentially down the road. JP Marvelous, again, didn't catch the WVU game. What are their main weaknesses this year, and how does Pitt match up? JP, we'll have I'll have a video out later on this week with the pros, the cons, breaking down this matchup. I also suggest you guys tune in to Kuz's Corner on Tuesday when we talk about it. Might actually bring Kuz on to this show as well to talk about the matchup between Pitt and West Virginia. But one of the main things that really stood out to me, I think, whether it's the defensive line or the offensive line, I think there's major issues up front, and they were not getting a push against Ohio. They didn't get a push against Robert Morris. We heard Pat McAfee say that Robert Morris is a great football team. I mean, they lost like 53-7 this past weekend to Youngstown State. Youngstown State destroyed them. So, I mean, there's, I don't know how great of a football team they were, they weren't, when you're facing a Power 4 team, there shouldn't be any issue being able to move guys up front. I had a little bit of an issue with that on the Pitt offensive line in that first game for that first quarter against Duquesne, but then they finally took over after that, especially the pass blocking. But the main thing with West Virginia, there are questions at quarterback. I think their offensive line certainly has problems. I think their defensive line certainly has problems. They're not going to be able to stop the run as much for us. That kind of probably helps them a little bit, I would think, because we're not as much of a running football team. We'll do it when we need to do it, but we're going to be multiple. We're going to put guys out there. You've heard guys tonight, Eric, talk about it. We're going to have guys across the board where there's many different plays you can run off of many different sets. And I agree with him. And there's nobody better to talk about it than Eric. When you're at that level and you're able to really distribute the football to numerous people, that's what you want to see. And I think Pitt's going to be very advantageous this coming weekend in terms of running things that we have not seen. Again, I think if I had to put a number on it from what I've seen from last year to this year, with the number of players they have, I'd say we ran about probably 65, 70% of the offense. You'll see the other 30% here. Yeah. I know, Eric, you didn't get to see the football game, but when you heard they lost, what was your initial reaction to hearing, okay, hey, one, was it like, okay, we know what that's like because it's Pitt. We've had our fair share of losses. We lost to Western Michigan in 2021. Luckily, we went on to win an ACC title game, so that kind of like erased that pretty much. When you heard that West Virginia lost to Ohio, when it came to this matchup here this week, what were your initial thoughts?
And I'm not digging at West Virginia on this, but I'm not surprised. And I think my answer to JP's question, what their main weakness is, it's cohesion.
Yeah.
Right, because there are so many different players.
That's a great point.
You can't. And one thing about college football, they don't have preseason. Right, they have some scrimmages, all that kind of stuff, and they only have so many hours to practice. You putting a football team together does not happen in 2 weeks. And to your point, JJ, you have players still coming in the fall or even late summer.
Yeah,
that's just too many moving parts to then go ahead and start a season and think you're going to hit on all cylinders, or even hit enough that you're going to be competitive against, good competition. Even if the competition, let's face it, Ohio is a smaller and should be an inferior program to West Virginia. But Ohio players were there. They had a game plan. They played better together. Even though I did not see the game, I'm just assuming that.
Yeah.
Pitt definitely has the advantage of at least playing together. We've talked about the depth and the contributions throughout the roster from top to bottom. West Virginia doesn't really have that because they're still trying to figure this out. And they may not figure. Now, they might be a dangerous team to play in the end of the year or something once they maybe figure a few things out. But for week 3, their biggest weakness is they're still trying to figure things out. It's the cohesion. Pitt should be able to take advantage of that.
I agree. And another super chat in here, Pitt fan H2P. What do you think Pitt will do to prepare for the crazy environment? I can tell you this. I think we'll probably see a lot more. And I will just put this out there right now. Pat Narduzzi is a very superstitious guy. And again, we've seen it from numerous coaches across the board. It doesn't matter who it is. I posted a video about Bruce Arians talking about it. Bill Polian in the NFL would be, if he saw a guy in a hoodie with the hoodie down too much on top of his eyes, he'd go, hey, who the hell is that guy? Go find out who that guy is and get him the hell out of here. Same thing. Yeah. Bruce Arians wanted tarps up. He wanted black tarps up to where you couldn't see. Mike Tomlin was the same way. We were getting ready for the New England Patriots and other teams, put things up. I don't want guys to see. Bill Polian at one point, he said he pointed to the sky. He saw a plane going over. He goes, everyone freeze. Don't move. Nobody moves until that plane's out of the area. Yeah. I mean, I heard a story about Pat Narduzzi the same way. There was a helicopter circling. He thought when we were facing Penn State that there was potentially someone watching and stealing our signs. Obviously Narduzzi made a comment, there's people up in those hills. They're watching, Pitt's plays and whatnot. I mean, to this thing, you're going to see probably, I would think Tuesday through Thursday, you're going to see Pitt practicing indoors. They're going to know who's going in and out of that facility. He's going to have that thing like Fort Knox. Yep. And in that indoor facility, guys, they have the speakers. I can assure you those speakers are going to be blaring, and they're going to be blaring Country Roads, and it's going to be loud, and they're going to be able to go through every bit of motion. I probably think it may be louder in the indoor facility because it echoes. Everything's just echoing there. So you turn up the volume, all of a sudden it's like your ears are just ringing because you're indoors. It's not like it's outdoors. Mm-hmm. They're going to overhype it to where they know it's going to be loud at West Virginia. So they're going to turn it up to where they want to eliminate procedure penalties, which again, I think any offensive coordinator that'll crush any coordinator's mind is just the procedure penalties. But
of course,
to your point, Eric, what do you think?
You're going to see a lot of the silent count. If you guys seen this, you can probably see this in college, and you'll see it in the pros. One of the right guards looking back at and then he reaches over and taps the center in the ass or on the thigh. What that means is everybody goes on the center snap. It's essentially a silent count. Any audibles could be just by simple hand gestures or hand signals. So they're going to practice a lot of that. So they're either going to pump the volume in like you're talking about, JJ, or they may just simply run the offense without talking. Those are just things that you're going to try to practice on in practice. And that's how you prepare for any crazy environment, because you have to have nonverbal communication on that. So to alleviate the procedural penalties on the offensive line, it's just everybody goes on the center snap.
Yeah.
And then obviously if it quiets down, that will change. If Pitt is winning handily and the stadium starts to empty down the road, that will change, go back to your regular offense. So that's usually what they'll do.
I agree. And again, guys, that's great insight from a guy who would know. And again, it's funny. We do see it across college football when you're in those loud environments. They are, you see the guard slap the guy on the ass and say, okay, hey, we're good to go. Hit it. And then they roll. So plenty of different things Pitt will do during the week. But again, hard to reciprocate what it's going to look like in Morgantown. Luckily, this football team was down there 2 years ago, and there's multiple guys returning from there, so they know exactly what it's like. Obviously, I don't want to see, for me personally, I don't want to see Pitt getting off the bus with helmets on. I mean, we're not worrying about that kind of stuff. Now, I understand why fans don't want to go to the game. I mean, I'm not going to the game down there because of multitude of issues we've seen in the news, everything else that goes on down there. Certainly not going to give my money to West Virginia fans as well. Will has a good point here. Got to rein in the extracurriculars that Pitt showed against Central Michigan. That will lose you football games if you're being stupid, and penalties, procedure. Forget the procedure penalties. When you have roughing the passers or unsportsmanlike conduct, that stuff's you got to reside it. Beat them in between the lines and in between the whistles. It's that simple. So I agree with that. I don't care if the Mountaineers lost to Aliquippa on Saturday. Rivalry games are different, and that's why anything can happen and anyone can win, hence 13-9. And Steve, to your point, 13-9, but the following year we had Wanstead in here. We were a ranked team at the time, and West Virginia came in and beat us. And the same thing, we went down there. When we were down there, they beat us there. I just think that when you look at this team this year, Pitt is clearly the better football team, but it's time for Pat Narduzzi to show that, one, this is the last Backyard Brawl till 2029. More than likely, this is Pat Narduzzi's last Backyard Brawl. I feel very comfortable in saying that. And, with retirement conversations, things of that nature down the road, 2029 is a far ways away, but potentially last Backyard Brawl for Pat Narduzzi. You got to beat your rivals. And if you're a good to great football team, you go on the road and win the games you're supposed to. He won against rival Cincinnati when they were able to come back down 27-3. This is a football team that they've gone through adversity the last 2 years. They know what they need to do. This is a non-excuse. It should be a win for Pitt. And I don't care what happens unless something just drastically happens during the game that we have an injury. And, obviously, knock on wood, I'm not, hey, we're healthy. We're staying that way. So unless something crazy happens, but this should be a win for Pitt. And Pat Narduzzi needs to prove that. If you want to coach this level, you have to win the hard games on the road and win those football games. Eric, to your point, do you think to this question here, you said it early on too, a must win and more pressure for Pat Narduzzi, but to your extension of that, this is, in your opinion, a must win game for Pitt.
It is. And I will say this to all the Pitt fans as well out there too, is if they win 17-16, so they won. I agree that this should be like a 44-10 game or a 44-20 game or something like that. But because of shenanigans, because of a rivalry, if you guys remember those, on here, if you're Steeler fans, even back in the years with the Cincinnati Bengals were 3-13, 2 of those wins were against the Steelers. There's certain things that just bad teams beat good teams all the time. But I do think this is a week where Pitt should win comfortably. However, if they win 17-16 or score something similar, is what it is. Just move on and just keep going. Take the W.
Yeah, take the W and be 3-0 right now. Their job, and you'll hear Pat Narduzzi talk about it during the week, it'll be a very stressful practice. He's going to be pushing them very hard and being very critical. Same thing with Cade Bell. Ryan Manilak, all those guys. They're going to be on these guys to win this game. And to follow up, Steve Jurkovic says, with that being said, I expect us to win and win by 14 or more points. Hail to Pitt. Last question here. We need to prepare from Paris night. We need to prepare for screens, quarterback draws, keep our heads on a swivel. And Paris, I think that from what me and Eric have said here tonight, we couldn't agree more with you, especially with the way they run the football at the quarterback position. West Virginia has always been known for that. With the versatility at the quarterback position, I expect that to continue and continue moving forward. Well, guys, we're an hour and 10 minutes in. We went over an hour. And, I got to say, first up, Eric, man, I can't thank you enough for joining the show, brother. You do a tremendous job. And again, guys, before Eric gets off here, Eric, tell them where they can find you on social media, on Twitter, and then tell them where they can find you on YouTube at your channel.
Absolutely. Again, JJ, this is always a pleasure. I hope this won't be the last time I join you on here too.
You'll be back.
You'll be hanging in the Bird Cave as well. But everybody, it's the Bird Cave is mine and my buddy, my partner in crime, GB, aka the Uppity Yinzer. Follow us on Twitter at Bird Cave and at Uppity Yinzers, as well as our YouTube channel, the Bird Cave. What we do is we talk all things football. As you notice, all things beers. We like to have a beer or so when we talk ball. We love to talk college ball, NFL, mostly Steelers, and we like to review some beers like, hey, is this beer good for you to leave in your man cave? Is this a good beer to take to the game and watch? So just some really fun, good talk that you would expect when you're hanging in someone's basement or on someone's deck with the guys. So hope everybody comes and checks out the Bird Cave. But also, if you haven't subscribed yet, man, subscribe to JJ's Pod, man. It's awesome. I watch it all the time myself. I'm again, very, very thankful that you had me on.
Eric, you're always welcome back here. We will certainly have you on, even for the way post games. We'll team up and we'll do something to get you on here more often, because obviously your wealth of knowledge is just through the roof. And the same thing goes one of these nights, obviously, to people who are asking in the comment section. We will have Eric back. GB, Harry will be back. I'm looking to get Carlo on here as well. I can have up to 7 people, I think 7 or 8 people on the live stream here. Yeah. And with that kind of wealth of knowledge, I mean, those guys are truly the best of the best, whether it's college football or the NFL. Again, make sure you go to the Bird Cave, subscribe, like their videos. They do a tremendous job over there. Eric will certainly be back. He will be a mainstay of this channel because, 1, he has great information, but 2, the more important thing, he's an incredible individual. So that's what we care about, the character, the high character of these people. Will, thanks for the chat, JJ and Eric. Hail to Pitt. Couldn't agree more. And guys, as always and forever, hail to Pitt and hail to the ACC. Let's go kick the shit out of West Virginia in the Backyard Brawl. More stuff coming here this week. Enjoy your Sunday.